Thanks very much for the invitation. A real pleasure to be here. Um, First time ever in this space, and it's a beautiful facility. Congratulations to the founders. So I'll be talking about biological control of invasive species in food and agriculture. So I'm the Chief Science Officer at Invasive Species Corporation. It's based in Davis, California. And I actually live in San Diego in Poway, and I've been commuting to Davis for the last 10 years, ever since I got started with agriculture field. Prior to that, I was in biopharmaceuticals, industrial biotech, green tech, you name it. Everything had something to do in common, which was microbes and the cells. And they all require interesting products in those fields, and agriculture happened to be one of the very, very exciting areas. So what I'll talk about is invasive species themselves. What are they? What is the impact? What does Invasive Species Corporation do in terms of biological control as opposed to standard chemical control? And some people call it nasty chemicals. And emerging species for biological targets, and a couple of case studies and summary. So invasive species is something that's introduced, it's non-native. It can be a microbe, it can be an insect, fungus, parasite, plant, animal, etc. And it can be even a disease. And it spreads and expands its range from wherever it came from. And we all have seen weeds growing in the backyard. We've seen lots of ants crawling around. And so this year we have a lot more ants than it used to be. We've seen mosquitoes. And a lot of those things are spreading, and the beetles. And there are more and more examples of those things. And what they do is they can cause crop decimation. If it's in the water, it can be clogging of water facilities and waterways, wildlife and human disease transmission, threats to fisheries, soils, increased fire vulnerability. We've seen that in San Diego County. And also adverse effects for ranchers and farmers. And these definitions are from US Geological Survey as well as US Department of Agriculture. And they are, invasive species happen to, because of climate change, they happen to be some of the most drivers of global biodiversity loss. So it is actually a $500 billion global challenge. And most of us don't realize how much these invasive species are causing the damage, but that is the number that's been published, and also causing the extinction of the various species that are out there. And in terms of food and agriculture, that's also causing a major problem in terms of weeds, for example. Insects are moving northwards from the south because of climate change. Speaking of which, we all have heard about climate change and what it does. And most of us are used to thinking about, well, it's getting warmer, lots of rain here, and some places there is very little rain. Because of ocean temperatures, there are hurricanes, and they carry lots of weeds, seeds all over the place, and of course the carbon dioxide. And what that does to the agriculture and food production is the soil is being eroded in certain areas when there is a lot of water. And there is other places where there is desertification. Soils are getting saltier and saltier. So plants have a hard time growing in it, and you have to treat the plants appropriately. But that also reduces the farm output, which in turn people apply lots of nutrients, etc. And sometimes when it rains, nutrients also run off into the water, and its cycle starts again. So what do we see here in terms of climate change? So we have USGS has published lots of data on various species that are being introduced because of the climate change. You have land and aquatic weeds such as kudzu, tree of haven on the East Coast, and hydrilla in water in Florida. And these things take over the land and water very, very quickly, and they are devastating. We haven't seen much of that on the West Coast yet, but it is coming. In terms of aquatic invasives, we have zebra mussels and quagga mussels. Most of them have been on the eastern side of the country, but even in Southern California, Hoover Dam, etc., they've been infested with these mussels, and they are very voracious mussels. Then they eat up all the food, and the native species die off. Lionfish in marine water, a beautiful fish when you're snorkeling, but it is a big problem, causing some major issues. And New Zealand mud snails, also in Florida, have been detected. Slow, but they are dangerous. And in terms of soil and forest insects, we have lots of different beetles that are causing issues with the trees, either by themselves or in combination with fungi, pathogenic fungi. So when they transmit into the disease, into the trees, trees start dying off. And when they start dying off, they become fodder for fires. And then the forest fires start. If you have ever been to Banff in Canada, thousands and thousands of acres of brown trees you can see because of the beetle infestation. And that is causing some major issues. And when the trees are gone, it increases the amount of erosion, etc., but also reduces the amount of carbon. And finally, the insect fungi complex. Again, diseases caused by both insects and fungi. Fungi are the major culprit, but they are being carried by the insects into the trees. So climate change has really changed the ecosystem. It has some biological issues there. So it requires continuous innovation. And energy developers, land managers, water managers, they're all scrambling for solutions for some of these major issues. So detection and mitigation programs are definitely important, but also high potency biologicals. There is a major uproar against using chemicals from all environments, all states. And what are the solutions? We have biological solutions which are available for agriculture, but can they be applied beyond the agriculture? So there are bioinsecticides, biological herbicides, aquatic herbicides, fungicides. All of them can be found and developed, but having a appropriate bioprocessing and production technologies and delivery mechanisms, they are less effective. And that's where the innovation happens. So what does ISC do? ISC is Invasive Species Corporation, again, based in Davis, California. So we are really trying to find nature positive solutions for these issues to preserve the biodiversity, work with the climate change and how it can impact the forests, and also improve the economy in terms of yields, reduce the costs, and improve the quality and health. It was founded by Pam Marone. She is a four-time entrepreneur. This is her fourth company. The first three she exited with some successful, after starting successfully. Jim Boyd and Pam started this company together. I joined them after working with them for 9 years in Davis. And Jim Golub is our bio-innovation driven business development person. We also have some really high-powered board members. Kathleen Merrigan, she was at USDA, Deputy Secretary. Steve Duke is a world-renowned weed scientist, so herbicide developer. And then we have been receiving some funding from Peter Kennedy in Singapore. So biologicals for food and agriculture, there are three different categories. One of them is biopesticides control and bioprotection. Second one is biostimulants and biofertilizer and bionutrients. And what I'm talking about is the first part, which is the biological control. So preventing pests from the farm operations. And this is regulated by EPA as opposed to USDA or FDA. And we've been developing these kind of products for a while. It's a $3.5 billion market with 17% increase annually in its adoption. Why? Because it's very inexpensive to develop these products, less than 5 million, in about 5 years to have a Gen 1 product out and on the farm. It improves the soil health, and people know this, and more and more organic farmers are being farmers are converting their soil from traditional to organic farming. It does not leave any residues in the field, and there is no resistance uh, that they have found yet. Um, Primarily because it's microbial product, multiple bioactives, and resistance development is very difficult. So it's possible that in about 20 years, biologicals will eclipse the chemical products out there. And the market is just the beginning. And it can be a $120 billion market. So because of that, there's been a lot of investment in the agriculture area. $15.6 billion were invested in 2023 globally. And overall, you have globally 204, almost $205 billion since 2014. So there is a lot of interest in global agriculture and food production, especially a lot of it is also going to biologicals. However, not much has been done for invasive species. Only 4 companies that we know of, including our own, have been dealing with invasive species. We all hear about this in Wall Street Journal, BBC, you name it, NBC. They all have invasive species related news. However, very little work is being done. And you can see that Inveo Sciences is working on peptides for citrus greening. And in Florida, citrus greening has caused some major issues. Acres and acres of land, citrus trees have been devastated, so much so that companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi are scrambling to find solutions and funding solutions because they are one of the biggest owners of that land. It has also spread to Southern California. Sundew is a company that makes RNAi, engineered algae, for aquatic invasive species. And we, ISC, we're using microbes to find natural products to the invasive species control. So the strategy is we discover, we develop, and we deploy. So discovery part is just beginning. It's been about 5 months since we started. From what we learned previously, we have advanced our thinking about how do you really find microbes and molecules made by them to get ahead in the game. And we're using AI and ML-based technology for herbicides and other things. We are working with some microbial sourcing and extract sourcing for small molecules with University of Michigan. And also we have a grant from Burrowing Shrimp Control in oyster beds in Washington State. In terms of development, we are working with USGS. ArborJet is a company, big company in the US to prevent tree diseases, etc. Working with UC Riverside as well as UC Davis. But also, once we find something, how do you really get to the next stage? So we have a relationship with some commercial companies using fermentation and bioprocess development, formulations, etc. And finally, testing. At the USGS, United States Geological Survey, they are a big stakeholder in the environment in the country. And deployment in the beginning, we'll be working with ArborJet as well as USGS, and we're talking to CAL FIRE about trees. So we have about 8 different products that we have planned. First 2, Ziquanox Gen 1 and Gen 2. Gen 1 is already commercial. We can sell the product now. However, we're competing with chlorine and copper and things like that, which are very inexpensive. However, there is some uproar about using those chemicals because they have side effects. So we have biological product, Ziquanox, that is available. It's expensive. So we have a Gen 2 product to come up with a cost-effective solution. Similarly, something called piscomycin, which kills certain fish for aquatic environments, and we're developing herbicide, algicide, and bioinsecticide. So for a small company, I think we're doing well. We're ahead of the game, and hopefully the first 2 products are going to be funding some of the other development. And this is the way we do it. It's a very busy slide, but we start with AI or machine learning guided sourcing of molecules or microbes. We find those microbes, we do the genomics work, We do some fermentation in the lab scale, and then high throughput screening on a number of different target species in the lab. We, of course, do DNA sequencing, greenhouse trials, field trials, also find out about what the chemistry is. Why is this particular microbe working? Is it because of a protein, small molecule, or all of the above, so that we can actually track it when we're developing the fermentation process. Formulation becomes a very, very important aspect of the whole program. And then because it has to be deployed and delivered to the field and the target size. So we do a very large scale manufacturing all the way up to 100,000 liter scale to make these products cost effectively for agriculture. So we have two products. I'll talk more about them later. Ziquinox and piscomycin. Ziquinox is for zebra and quagga mussels. It's been tested by energy companies, Lake Michigan, golf courses even, etc. And you can see this picture on the left side of my left. We have a pipe, which is intake pipe from lake, which is completely occluded with mussels. And these mussels they can shut down the energy companies, which supplies water to electricity to farms. We have been able to solve this problem with our product, Navia Solar product. And same thing with the piscomycin. This is electrofishing, it's called, where the fish are selectively killed. And Asian carp is a big problem there. So Equinox is a product that is estimated to have a total addressable market of $1.5 billion. We have, as I mentioned, Gen 1 is commercialized, it's available, it's been used. However, we know certain tricks of the trade where we can actually decrease the production cost significantly, so a lot more people can use it in the field. Again, the major issue is the clogging of pipes in lakes, but also diversity loss in various ecosystems. It is made by a soil microbe called Pseudomonas fluorescens that we isolate, that New York State Museum isolated, and we actually developed that as a product. It has no impact on other aquatic species. It's a very selective product. We know several molecules that it is producing, including one protein. And it's only 1 6-hour treatment in water that kills the mussels completely. Again, it's been scaled up very well at very large scale. So the protein, the final formulation is ingested by the mussels, and mussels filter feed it, and eventually the protein and other molecules go into the mussels, and over the 3 to 28 days, they die off selectively again. Very effective, and we're talking to Utah State to treat the Snake River, which is a big problem. And they used copper last year, and it killed thousands of fish, which were unwanted in terms of killing, because they are recreational as well as food fish that died. So there is a major uproar about that. So they are considering using biological product, and we're hoping that that can be a major thing for us. Piscomycin, again, the same $1 billion estimated market, working with USGS. It was a product that was already developed, used. However, the company that made this product actually went out of business. So USGS has been scrambling to get this product out. They approached us. We're looking at Gen 1 process right now, and it's looking good. Now it's going to go to the USGS for testing. If it works, we're going to develop a fermentation process for a large-scale opportunity. And it is made by Streptomyces. We have an actinomyces expert in the room here. But these microbes are known to make antibiotics and very, very potent small molecules for pharmaceuticals. But here is an example of something that we use for food and agriculture. It was an approved product, but it has lapsed. So we are going back to EPA with the improved process, and we're hoping that we can start selling the product this year as a Gen 1 product. It works at as little as 25 parts per billion. So it's a very potent molecules. Finally, last 2-3 slides, I'll just brush upon some of the things that we're working on. Biological herbicide is a big problem. We have hundreds of weeds being becoming resistant. And if you can see the grass in wheat, corn, rice, soybeans, in all the farm crops, we have some residue issues, the resistant issues. And then glyphosate resistant weeds are also becoming bigger and bigger problem. So other products that we have under development is insecticides. We have licensed this particular 2 insecticides that I personally worked on in the previous company, and they are being used for forestry, fighting some issues with some beetles, and the addressable market happens to be about $500 million, and this is something that we're working with. Another bioinsecticide is for sucking insects, but we are uh, using that for beetles. And it is a microbial product called Chromobacterium subsugi, and it's been used, approved, commercially produced. So we are expanding its application. So, and finally, the algaecide. So during our biodiversity scanning and finding novel microbes, we have found some algaecidal products that we are going to be looking at in the algaecide market, not only in the backyard pool, but also some major issues out there, a $2.3 billion market. So we are a small capital efficient company. And we're hoping that by 2031, with 8 products in the market, we'll get up to about $200 million in sales. We have some basic $1 million pre-seed funding from Silver Strand Capital and some grant from Washington State, but we're hoping that we'll continue to generate interest and get there. Finally, we have to have a holistic system-based approach to attack the problems that we have in the environment, forestry, land, and water. We are just a small part of the whole picture, and we're hoping to work with our own tools, but also work with the other companies in JV and the technology space. That, thanks very much.
So thank you. Get your questions ready. I'm sure there's a lot of them. I'm going to start with one question, and that is, one of the things that impressed me most about you was your team. You definitely got the quality, experienced people together, and I'm sure a lot of people would like to know how you did that, but I'm going to ask a different question. What is the one thing you do right with your team to coordinate where you go, and how do you decide where to go and what to next to coordinate those high-powered people?
Well, so Pam Marone, this was her 4th company. So this is her 4th company. So she is well known in the field, and I've worked with her. I've known her since '91, and I've been following her in agriculture space, even though I was not in agriculture. And it was really wonderful to have an opportunity to work with her. So and having someone with her caliber was a good start for me to bring my industrial biotech experience and see how we can develop products. We have the other team members came along because they have followed her. In the previous company, Moron Bio Innovations, where it was sold to Bioseries from Argentina. And they invested in that company. They made money off of that. So they are obviously looking at this company, a very potentially successful company. So attracting people like that, especially from agriculture, has been one of the major aspects of Pam Marone's ventures. So hope that answers your question.
Sure. Questions?
Hello, thank you for presenting. That was awesome. Quick question: is it transgenic, or is it just like a specific isolation? And if not transgenic, what is that patenting process like for you?
Yeah, so great question. Thank you for asking that question. So these are native microbes that are found, discovered by us, and associated with appropriate final product. But one of the tacks that we took was not actually releasing the live microbes in the field. So we actually look for the molecules that are made and we rely on having the molecules as part of the final product. So we kill the microbes knowingly so that they don't release, and there is no public issue. So these are natural and native microbes, nothing to do with transgenics. However, as I said, now we want to see how we can come up with a faster way of doing things, because finding natural molecules in a wild microbe, it takes a long time, 2-3 years to find the molecules in the right, through the chemistry process and biological assay process, etc. So we're looking at the genomic space and see if we can short circuit things using recombinant DNA synthetic biology technology to overproduce those molecules. However, when we do that, they go through a different classification from EPA standpoint. So they are not biologicals anymore, they're biochemicals, and it's a little bit more stringent work. But we do not work with transgenic plants or anything like that. But microbes are, so far, have been very natural.
Yes, I'm curious to know, in regards to the impact on non-target species within a very diverse, biodiverse environment like an aquatic situation, how do you evaluate and test that you're not having unintended consequences on beneficial organisms?
Yeah, so USGS is very well versed in having access to facilities where they actually can grow certain fish, certain mollusks, weeds, whatever it is that. So they do it in a confined environment, some testing, just like we would do rabbits or rats or dogs or things like that for clinical work. So for the products that we have commercialized, almost 30 or 40 different species were tested individually in there against our products to see whether there were any adverse effects, and there were none whatsoever. So our claim to fame is to finding very specific, targeted, selective molecules. Now, we will not be successful all the time. So the question is, what is the dose range that they can tolerate? Some species are more sensitive to lower dose than higher dose, etc. So we try to minimize the dose to see if it has any. But it's a good question. You know, the aquatic environment can be challenging. Yeah.
Hey, Amit, really impressive. I've been tracking you, from the Maroon days, and it's really interesting seeing how you got up with the next venture altogether. And one question I have is, like, in terms of your pipeline from discovery, development, and deployment phase, right? How much time does it take for you to quickly react and get a product up and running? And you obviously you're working on all these different other market segments simultaneously. And how do you really prioritize, and how are you approaching? Which is curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Again, great question. So priority always depends on how fast we can make money, so that we can fund everything else and satisfy the investors. So the first two, while we have the two commercialized or commercializable product near term, that's what we work on first. So we don't have to do any fundamental work anymore in the lab. So our resources are divided up into some discovery for algicides and herbicides, etc. While I personally take part in commercialized products to see how we can actually deploy the products so that we can start generating revenues to fund other work. So that's one. The second part is the actual, let's just say that we found a microbe. How long does it take? So we're looking at about 5 years minimum. So the discovery can happen within the first 10 months or 12 months or something, but then understanding how to really develop that into a commercializable product takes another year or more. And Gen 1 can go out to the EPA, for example. So it takes about 2.5 years. So and then you scale up and manufacture. So about 5 years plus or minus 6 months is what we are thinking about as a, and because it's a Gen 1 product, it can be only $5 to $6 million in development. And this is one of the things about agriculture. You can go into the market very quickly as long as it's safe. And safety is certainly something that we assess very, very early in the process.
Time for one more question. Okay. What do you see is the biggest advancement that can accelerate faster than 5 years? Is there anything, technology, quantum computing, anything you think will make that work even faster?
Yeah, so and this is one of the reasons why yes, the answer is yes. We're looking at the omics technologies, genomics based approaches to see if we can identify molecules much more readily, which cuts down on the chemistry time in the lab. So that's one, and also finding novel microbes from nature based on the available data that's out there. So machine learning, AI type of algorithms are something that we're using right now to see if we can short circuit some of the discovery of microbes.
Fantastic.